It's the 30th anniversary of the Tiananmen Square Massacre. The U.S. Secretary of State says China stole U.S. military secrets. And what Chinese authorities say is the biggest risk for Chinese visitors in the United States. That and more on this week's China News Headlines. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. This week's China News Headlines. You know, camera technology has sure improved over the last, let's say, 30 years. Consider this grimy old photo from 1989. You can barely see what's going on. But with the new Huawei P30 Pro, photos become much more accurate. An image that's so crystal clear, it's invisible. And that's not all. With the P30 Pro's new China Dream filter, a pesky message about freedom from tyranny gets much more patriotic. That banner now says, "Go Huawei." As it should. That Huawei photo, by the way, is a joke that Chinese netizens are passing around on WeChat. As U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says,
Huawei is an instrument of the Chinese government.
And with that instrument, the Chinese government can make beautiful things. Obviously, the 30-year anniversary of the Tiananmen Square Massacre is big news, except in China where it's no news at all. And foreign companies are willing to help, like one of Reuters news service's biggest partners. Refinitiv is a data firm that operates in China, providing financial information. And citing the legal realities of China, blah, 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 they decided to block anything to do with the Tiananmen Square Massacre on their data terminals in China. Somewhat ironically, that meant also blocking Reuters articles. According to Reuters, Refinitiv took the action to block the stories last week after the Cyberspace Administration of China, which controls online speech, threatened to suspend the company's service in China if it did not comply. However, many users outside of China said they could not see the stories. Maybe they were all using phones made by Huawei. Which brings us back to Mike Pompeo. The U.S. Secretary of State is saying China stole U.S. secrets to build up their own military. Shocking, I know. Fortunately, the U.S. Department of Defense has come up with a novel solution. See, a few days ago it was reported that the Defense Department accidentally bought $20 million worth of phony military gear made in China. But I say it was no accident, because now when the Chinese military steals American technology, they'll be stealing back their own stuff that doesn't work. Very art of war. China has launched a rocket to space from a cargo ship at sea. That makes China the first country to fully own and operate a floating launch platform for space missions. Why that's an advantage, I'm not sure. Maybe they were inspired by Waterworld. But the China National Space Administration said in a statement, launching a rocket from the sea has the advantages of high flexibility, good adaptability for specific tasks, and excellent launch economy. Okay, I have no idea what that means. Maybe when they launch a rocket from the ancient Chinese territory of the South China Sea, wherever it lands also becomes ancient Chinese territory. Now, like many things made in China, the idea for the launch platform was actually stolen. Back in the late 90s, the United States, Norway, Russia, and Ukraine teamed up to build a sea launch service called, wait for it, Sea Launch. But the program was shut down in 2014 after Russia decided Ukraine was a part of Russian territory since ancient times. Meanwhile, in Hong Kong, thousands of lawyers took to the streets to protest a proposed extradition law. That law would allow criminals to be extradited from Hong Kong to mainland China for the first time. People like corrupt Chinese officials and business people who have fled to Hong Kong. But the proposed law has made many Hong Kongers nervous, since what's considered a crime in Hong Kong versus the mainland can be different. Also, there's the whole lack of rule of law in mainland China issue. Now, you know things are bad when the lawyers start protesting in the streets. Looks kind of like a giant black parade. I mean, who died, am I right? What's that, Shelley? Oh, right. Hong Kong's freedoms have died. How about we talk about the trade war? Nice, simple, happy trade war. According to the International Monetary Fund, President Trump's tariffs are having an impact on China. The trade tensions have had an impact, significant, but in our view, so far contained. Chinese leader Xi Jinping has decided to focus on the contained part. He said, looking into the future, China's economy bears the supporting conditions for stable, healthy, and sustainable growth. He said that just before he traveled to Russia to meet Putin, where Xi said, and I kid you not, "He is my best and bosom friend. I cherish dearly our friendship." I mean, obviously. This time last year, Xi gave Putin a Best Friends Forever medal. Oh my gosh, Russia collusion is real. It's just China-Russia collusion. And I'm sure nobody would be interested in that story. For the past 2 years, the US government has been making it harder for Chinese students to get visas to study here. The concern is potential espionage. The US government is also making it more restrictive for Chinese nationals to get work visas in sensitive fields related to national security, like the semiconductor industry. So, the Chinese Communist Party has pulled the classic, well, we don't want to send people to your stupid country anyway. They've warned Chinese citizens not to visit or study in the US, saying students and scholars should strengthen risk assessments before going abroad to study. Specifically, the Ministry of Culture and Tourism warned of threats such as robbery and gun violence in America. Yes, America is dangerous because of all the criminals with guns, whereas China is only dangerous because of all the soldiers with tanks. And now it's time for me to answer a question from one of you, a fan who supports China Uncensored with $1 or more per episode by contributing through Patreon. Largezo asks, what actually started the events leading to the 1989 Tiananmen Square Massacre? A protest against corrupt government officials? Good question. So, it has to do with these two guys, Hu Yaobang and Zhao Ziyang. The paramount leader at the time, Deng Xiaoping, called them his left and right hands. They were very, very high-ranking officials, charged with pushing forward Deng's economic reforms. But they were also keen on making political and social reforms, like investigating the hidden wealth of other top officials. That made them very popular with the average citizen, but not so popular with the average high-ranking official. So, other Communist Party members purged Hu Yaobang in 1987, and when he died in April 1989, people showed up in Tiananmen Square to mourn him. And then they decided, well, while we're here in Tiananmen, let's push the democratic reforms that Hu Yaobang had wanted. They continued their protest for weeks. In hindsight, maybe they should have gone with a different slogan. The protest spread around the country, and people were asking for greater economic and political reforms. But they were not asking to overthrow the Chinese Communist Party. But that's not how the Communist Party took it. Anyway, I also mentioned Zhao Ziyang. He supported the students by telling them to leave the square for their own safety. Bad move. For that, he got purged too, and spent the rest of his life under house arrest. And he was replaced with everyone's least favorite toad, Jiang Zemin. And the rest is China Uncensored history. This is, of course, the extreme Cliff Notes version. We've done several episodes on the Tiananmen Square Massacre over the years. I put links to those episodes below. Thanks for your question, Largezo. And thanks to everyone watching. We could not make this show without your support, whether it's supporting us through Patreon or just watching and sharing the show with your friends and family. So, thank you from me and everyone on the China Uncensored team. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.